Thank you and good afternoon. It has been an interesting morning listening to the challenges which are faced and the changes which are taking place in the retail end of the value chain. The discussions surrounding the trade policies are very informative and the progress of which we will be watching very keenly. In the sourcing arena, the conflict of interest among the different value chain partners, the different benchmarks which are used in selecting supply base, and differing trade policies are creating an uneven playing field on one side, and to some extent unreliable supply base. So during this last session before lunch, let me try my best to hold your interest by proposing to you from the other side of the table, as a manufacturer, what we feel are the problems we are being faced with and what our solutions are. I will be structuring my presentation into 4 parts. One is about today's sourcing landscape, the tipping point, how to manage the equation, third, and fourth, my personal experience and what we are doing in Sri Lankan apparel to face the challenges. The production has been shifting from country to country, region to region. It's evident when we see the statistics. And many newcomers have emerged within the first 20 or first 10 suppliers of US. If you take the statistics as of today, first 20 suppliers accounts for almost 93% of your imports of apparel. The same 20 suppliers 2 decades ago in 1990 were accounting for only 40%. Many leading suppliers from 1990 have faded away, including Hong Kong and other developed countries. China is continuing to have the lion's share with 38%. And despite all odds and whatever difficulties which we are talking about, there is no doubt China will continue to be a dominant player in the apparel industry and production many years to come. But one thing which is getting very clear, there are not going to be, with all this shift taking place, there are not going to be any new countries entering the supply base, which is very clear. All the migration which has taken place is settled, and there will not be, in my opinion, any new countries emerging. Let's go a little bit deeper into the manufacturers of those countries. We as manufacturers, we had been facing a rising cost of production year on year for the past several years. The cost of production increases comes from 2 angles. One is from the local inflation which we have, the others from taking on more and more value-added work which is done by our customers in the past. It could be in the front end, in the product development area, or it could be in the back end, in the quality control and the other areas. But despite our cost going up year on year, we have not seen a corresponding increases in the selling prices. Selling prices are dropping. So which has created another scenario. And I believe there will not, so the garment apparel industry is becoming a very low margin business. So we do not see there will be any new manufacturers entering this business anymore. It's very unlikely in the manufacturing side there will be new manufacturers entering. But there will be growth. The growth will come from the existing manufacturers who will be expanding in their countries or in offshore production. And that is going to be the reality of the future. There may not be any new countries emerging, and there may not be any new manufacturers entering the market. I believe we have reached a tipping point. With the escalation of manufacturing costs and falling selling prices, there is a vacuum had been created over a period of time. What do? We as manufacturers, we continue to look at ways and means how to reduce our costs. We look at increasing productivity, look at investment in technology, we look at our processes, but yet it is not sufficient to bridge the gap. So this has created a very unique situation. So this unique situation which has created, in our belief, and led into 4 types of different manufacturing models being created in the world. The first model being, there are a group of manufacturing countries who depend on government subsidies of their countries. The subsidies could come in the form of direct export rebates, indirect reimbursements, or it could be the currency manipulation. That's one type of group. The second comes on a low-cost, low-wage regime. Due to the abundance of labor pool available in those countries, and apparel industry manufacturing is labor-intensive, they will be able to offer low-cost, low-wage production, which will have other consequences. The consequences could be on compliance standard, unable to pay decent wages, which will eventually at some point of time will affect the brand's images. The third group depends on free trade agreements. Here, the difference is, here the gap is bridged by the taxpayers of the importing countries. Unlike in the first 2 models, the taxpayers of the importing countries pay for the gap which had been created. There is a group of countries manufacturers who still depend, who doesn't fall into those 4 categories, still depends on their service strengths, innovation, and business skills, and partnerships to make things work. And I believe, first we can ask the question, how long can the first 2 categories can compete? How long you can continue to depend on the first 2 categories? What we are seeing across the world over the past several months is an indication the first 2 models are not sustainable in the long run. There is going to be a shift. Think, for example, just take a question, for example. If the whole subsidies and the currencies manipulations are taken away, low-cost regime is taken away from tomorrow, what will happen to your supply base? Just ask that question for a while. We don't know when it will happen, but all what we know is it is going to happen sooner than later. So in my belief, what is sustainable in the long run is the 4th group of companies who, even from the other groups, they will start coming into the 4th group by competing on their service strength, sustainability, accountability, and also delivering the customer's needs. The managing the equation. The key to any lasting partnership is the mutual understanding of each other's needs and expectations. As a responsible manufacturer, I'm not standing in front of you to say the solution is paying more price. No, that's not my intention. Paying more price without resolving the other related issues will be only a short-term solution. So the key is we have to understand each other's needs and expectations. The needs and expectations of the retailers was discussed in detail earlier, so I will just touch basically few expectations of us as the manufacturers. We are looking at financially stable customers for obvious reasons, because we have to start investing in our resources long before we start delivering. So we don't want to get hurt in the process. So we are looking at stable customers. We are also looking at knowledgeable customers. The same way we are expected to know the processes of our customers, we also would like our customers to know our processes and requirements so that there will not be unreasonable, unfeasible demands are put on us, which will eventually affect the cost of the product or to some extent compliance standards. We are looking at steady business. Investing on a customer takes resources in terms of machinery, technology, time, etc. So all those we are putting in place, we would be looking at a steady business to flow through. For any unforeseen circumstances which any decisions has to be made, we would expect that to be done on a fair, ethical, and a reasonable manner. Ethical decision making, the next. One of the top questions which have been put to us always, we have to be compliant. We have to be ethical in all manufacturing. Our expectation is the same compliance standards, ethical behavior has to also come in it, as also should translate into ethical sourcing. It's general perception among us as manufacturers is there is only a values are said that everyone has to be ethical, but the delivery of that is not always bridged. The general perception is as long as we can be as ethical as we want, we can be as green as we want, as long as it doesn't cost us money. But that principle has to change, because to be ethical and to be sustainable, it costs money, and someone in the value chain has to pay for it. Then of course we are there to make profits. Let me briefly explain to you my experience in Sri Lanka Apparel, what we are doing to make it work. Before that, let me give a brief explanation about Sri Lanka. Those who do not know where Sri Lanka is, the tiny dot which you can see, it's not even significant, you can't see it in the map. So you may think, how can this country be of any significance supplying apparel to US? But we do supply over $3 billion of apparel to US, and we are 2% of US supply, and we have been maintaining that 2% for the past 2 decades. From 1990 we were at 2%, even today we are at 2%. We have only 21 million people, and we have the highest per capita exports of apparel from that region. And we were at 15th position to US in 1990, which we have moved up to 12th position this year. And we are not known to be a cheap country. We do not get our market share being only on cost. There are other strengths we had been working on, and our success has come through certain other areas apart from price. Price is also important, I acknowledge that. But apart from price, it has been sustainability, speed, innovation, and most importantly, partnerships. So let me give you very brief example for each of this area, what we have done at Sri Lanka Apparel to make it work. In the sustainability area, we have developed our industry over the past 3 decades from a mere tailor to a total solution specialist. We have world-class manufacturing facilities. Those who have visited many of our factories in Sri Lanka will understand that. We are second to nobody. We have earned a reputation of being reliable and quality manufacturer. The most of the world's best brands are manufacturing in Sri Lanka. We focus on innovation, and one of our major strengths, we have a high level of social and environmental accountability. So we have been building on ethical production and now moved on a step further from ethical. It had been compliance before, we moved from compliance to ethical production. Now we are looking at moving one step further to sustainability. Let's go in the next, and ethics is at our core of our day-to-day work.